Hi my friends, welcome to another exciting one. Today we are going to take a look at how we can create this cool 3D cosmetic product render from scratch inside of Blender. Without much talks, open up your Blender and let's go. Before we start, please check out my cosmetic bottles pack, which contains 20 cosmetic bottles, 5 pre-made scenes, materials, gobos, and a lot more to help you create professional looking cosmetic renders in no time. Link in the description below. So as usual, let's start from scratch. So let's hit on general for our fresh Blender file. Let's select the cube and the light, and then let's hit on X to delete it from our scene. Next, let's create the base of our container. So let's do Shift A. Then let's look for our cylinder. Let's add in the cylinder. The vertices is too much. Let's decrease it to from 32 to, let's say, something like 24 is fine for our purposes, right? So once we are done, next let's hit on tab to go into edit mode, and then let's make sure we have our face select mode active, and let's select this face and let's start with the base, right? So let's hit on I to create one insert like this, and then let's hit on I to create another insert, G, and then let's move it on the Z axis like this to create this nice little bit of detail. Next, let's go to our edge select mode, alt click to select this entire edge, and then let's bevel it a bit. So let's do Control B, bevel, scroll our mouse wheel up once to create 3 loop cuts like this, nice and simple. So next, let's focus on the top part. Let's select this top part, I to insert it one like this, maybe S to scale it in like this. It's too much. And let's do E to extrude it up, and then let's hit on X to delete this face, right? So we have something like this. Next, let's add in some thickness. So let's hit on A to select everything, and then Alt plus E, extrude faces along normals, so that we can add in some thickness like this. Right, so we can check offset even to make sure the extrusion is evenly offsetted everywhere, right? So next, let's add in some fake details at the grill here. So let's add in some fake swirl detail here. So let's do Control R, and then let's scroll our mouse wheel till we have 4 cuts like this, and then make sure we have our face select mode active. Alt click here to select this face, Shift Alt click to select this face, and let's do Alt E, extrude faces along normals once again, and then let's extrude it out, something like this, and then let's extrude it out once again, something like this, right? So we have this detail. So next, let's add in our solid subdivision surface. So let's go to here, add a modifier, generate, and then let's go to our subdivision surface modifier, right? So once we add in the subdivision surface, our object will start looking a little bit weird. Let's tab into edit mode and let's fix that, right? So first, we are going to start from the bottom. We can take this to toggle our subdivision surface off, on and off like this. So let's select this, G to bring it down, then S to scale it down, I to create another extrusion. So we have something like this, and then let's add in a couple of loop cuts to hold our form even more. So Control R, Control B to create a bevel, and then let's bring it up so that we have 2 loop cuts, one at the bottom and one at the top like this. Let's add the same, let's create something similar here, and then Control B to create 2 loop cuts here, one at the top and then one at the bottom. Then maybe we can add an extra loop cut here to hold this shape well, and then an extra one to here to hold this shape properly. So let's go to tab, and then this is what we have so far. So let's continue. Control R, click to create a loop cut. There's a bunch of loop cuts. Control B to bevel to create 2 loop cuts, then Control B, bevel to create 2 loop cuts like that. So tab out of edit mode, and then this is what we have so far. So right click and shade smooth for your final result. I think it's looking good for now. We can add in some loop cuts in the middle just to hold that form a bit more. I think it's looking good. You can add in another loop cut here for more detail, like that. So next, let's create the cap. So tab into edit mode, and then let's steal a geometry from here. Make sure we have our edge select mode active. Alt click to select this entire loop here, and then shift plus D to create a duplicate, and then P to separate it by selection. So now if we tab out of edit mode, we have two cylinders here. So let's quickly rename it. So let's call this body, and let's call this cap, just for identification purposes. So now let's select the cap here, tab into edit mode, alt click to select everything, and then let's do E to extrude it up like this. G, bring it up even more. Now let's do ES to extrude it up, and then let's hit on F to fill it out. Right now, if I hit on slash to isolate it, and then hit on tab, this is what we have. So let's quickly add in some loop cut, Control B for bevel, just to hold our form a bit more, and then let's close the inner part by adding some thickness. So let's do E for extrude, and then S to scale the extrusion down like this, and then we can do E and then Z to bring it up, then E S E S, and then we can do F to fill it out. Right, so whilst we are at it, let's add in a couple of loop cuts. Control R, Control B, one loop cut at the top and bottom, Control R, Control B, one loop cut at the top of and bottom. Same thing for here, one loop cut at the top and bottom. So now if you hit tab, right click and shade it smooth, this is what we have. Right, so back into edit mode, we have our body, and then we have our cap. Now let's just take a look at the normals to make sure everything is the normals are looking properly as they are supposed to. So if you come here and then we turn on first orientation, you can see everything is red, meaning the normals are flipped. So let's try and fix that. So let's select these two, tab into edit mode for both of them, hit on A to select everything, and then let's do shift N to recalculate the normals. Right, so now everything is looking blue as it's supposed to. So let's go back, and then let's uncheck our face orientation. Right, so this is the first part. Next, let's see how we can create the cream that looks like it's dripping from the second container. So to create the second container, let's select the bottom part, shift plus D to create a duplicate, and then let's bring it up until it's on top of the shape. Right, next let's rotate it. Let's rotate it on the Y axis. So R, Y, 90, so that we have something like this. And then next, let's try and create our liquid, our cream, which looks like it's dripping from this top container. So to create the cream, we are going to use the basic cube to do that. And then later on, we send it into the sculpt mode to sculpt it a little bit so that it looks like a cream. It looks realistic and it looks like a cream. So let's do shift plus A, and let's add in a cube, a simple cube. Let's do G, and let's bring it inside this container here. Then let's hit on S to scale it down until it's inside. Then SZ to scale it inside like this. We can bring it down like this. It doesn't have to be very precise. Just try as much as possible to get as precise as possible. So next, with this cube selected, let's tab into edit mode. Make sure we have our face select mode active. Let's select this face here, and then let's start extruding things outside. Right, so let's create the basic pouring extrusion. So let's hit on E to extrude, and then let's hit on S to scale it on the Z axis like this, and then we can extrude it once again. So E, extrude, and then rotate it on the Y axis, and then bring it down on the Z axis like this, then scale it down. Right, and then let's do E once again to extrude, then bring it down on the Z axis and rotate it on the Y axis like this. And then we can do a final E for extrusion, and then S to scale it down. Maybe bring this entire loop back a bit, something like this, right? So this is the basic shape that we have. Next, what we have to do is add in a couple of loop cuts. So Control R, add one loop cut at the middle, and then Control R, add another one here, right? So let's tab out of edit mode, and then let's add in our subdivision surface. So let's go to generate subdivision, and then let's increase the level to 4, right? So that we have something like this. Now let's right click and then let's shade it smooth. So with this ready, let's jump into our sculpt mode and see how we can sculpt this shape to make it look like a cream, which is dripping. So let's come top here and then let's hit on our sculpt mode to jump into our sculpt mode, right? So inside the sculpt mode, we are going to use some basic brushes to achieve our goal. We are not going to go much into details as to what each and every brush does. So we are going to utilize these 3 brushes here. So the grab, the elastic deform, and then the snake hook to create our desired shape. So let's start with the grab. We can always increase the radius, the strength, and what's not here. So I'll increase the radius, and then I'll start grabbing some shapes here and there just to create my desired form. So as you can see, it's very up here. So let me just quickly go to my layout, and then let's do Z to bring it down like this. And then we can jump into our sculpt mode once again. Then we can keep on grabbing things and playing around with it till we find something that works for us. So at this point, just play around with it until you find what works best for you. Just make sure it doesn't, you see how this place is intersecting with this one. Just make sure you correct that and it doesn't intersect as much like that, because in real life it's not supposed to. And apart from that, you have the creative freedom to create whatever you want. So in the inside, let's just try to flash it in a bit more, make it look more believable and realistic, as if it's flashing inside. Try not to overdo it. So we can select this, then play with it a bit more. And then this one, just to pull it. To find something that works for you, right? Just take your time and then play with it so you find what's the kind of desired shape you want. Obviously, all of us are going to end up with different shapes, right? So I think this is good and I'm okay with this. So let's jump into our layout and then let's continue on with our lighting, materials, and then our final render, right? So with this selected, I'll select these two, G, and then bring it back a bit so I lose something like this. And then next, I'll just hold here, drag to create another workspace here. So we are going to set up our camera here. Then let's drag this one here to set up our shader editor and cool stuff. So let's select shader editor here to create this workspace. And then let's hit on the camera to bring our camera in. And then let's quickly change the resolution from to 1080 by 1080. I'm going with a square render today, like this. Let me hit on it to bring our camera once again. So hit on this if you're using the latest version of Blender, just to lock camera to view. So instead of in the older versions, we will have to go, you hit N, go to view, and then camera to view. Now it's just a button away. You just have to click on it, and then it locks the camera to view for you like this, right? So next, let's set up the other things inside our scene. Let's do Shift A, and then let's add in a cube, right? And then let's bring the cube down to the bottom. I'll go into my front view, G, Z, and then let's make sure our cube is touching this part, right? And then let's scale our cube on the y-axis, so X, Y. And let's scale it on the y-axis. And let's scale our cube. Make sure it is touching once again, right? So once our cube is touching, if you take a look at our composition, you can see our cube have this angle right here. Let's try and make the angle straight. So let's rotate it on the Z axis, so R, Z, and let's give it a 30 degrees rotation, right? So that it looks like this is looking right ahead in front of us, whilst our main product is having that kind of the other angle, right? This is what we like, and this is what we are going for. Next, let's add in a backdrop. So let's add a plane. Let's bring the plane back like this, and then let's rotate it on the y-axis 90 degrees, and then let's rotate it on the z-axis 30 degrees so that it aligns with this cube that we created. Let's hit on S, then let's scale it till it fills our entire workspace. So next, whilst we are at it, let's add in a bevel. So select our cube, Shift A, Control A, and then apply our scale. Then let's go to our modifiers tab. Then let's look for bevel. Then let's add in a bevel here. Let's increase the segments to 3. Then let's decrease this until a slight bevel like this, right? So next, we can bring our cube back a bit like this, so that it looks like our main bottle is a bit overlapping the cube like that, right? Just for our composition preference. You can play around with it to find what works best for you, and I encourage you to do so. So now we can position our camera well. Maybe let's change the angle of our camera. So let's select our camera here, come to our camera properties, and then let's change the focal length to something like 70. So that it's like we have a very huge hero shot like this, right? Nice. So next, let's focus on adding some materials to our scene, and let's see how nice it looks. So before we go ahead, let's go to our render engine, and let's change it from EV to cycles, and then let's change the device from CPU to GPU compute. Next, let's come to our shader editors tab, and then let's go to our world view, and then let's add in an HDRI. So let's select this background, and let's do Ctrl+T to add in an environment texture. And let's hit on open, locate our HDRI. So just go online, and then if you hit free HDRIs for Blender, HDRI Haven, you'll be able to find some cool HDRIs to download and use. So once you download them, you can just simply double click them to add them into your scene. Next, let's make sure we have our render view active. So let's click on it so that we can show our render view. So the HDRI is providing our render with this cool lighting, right? Without us doing much. There's no light in the scene, but then we have light. Yeah. So now let's focus on adding some materials. So let's go to our objects. Let's first add material to the backdrop. So I'll select the cube, add in a new material, then let's change the color to something we want. Then maybe make it a bit rougher like this. Then select this backdrop, shift click, select this one, then Ctrl+L, and then link material to link the two materials. Next, let's add material to our basic shape, our basic container. So select the container, hit on new to create a new BSDF material. So we're going to make it transparent, but not like 100% transparent. So a bit transparent, but then with color too as well. So let's toggle the transmission, and let's increase the transmission to 1. This is what we have. let's change the base color to something like this, and then let's increase the roughness to, let's say, 0.8, right? So that we have this nice rough transparent object. Let's apply the same thing for all the three. So make sure we have the last ones active, Ctrl+L, and then let's link material so that all of them share the same material. Next, let's see how we can apply our label to this container and then the container at the top as well. So with this output selected, I'll bring it back here, and then so with this selected, I'll bring it back here, and then I'm going to select this principal BSDF and then hit on Shift+D to create a duplicate. I'll change the base color to, let's say, white, and then make it metallic, right? So I'm going to mix these two shaders here using a transparent PNG as a mask, right? So let's do Shift A, and let's look for mix shader mix, and then let's put it right in the middle, and then let's plug the second one at the bottom here. So we are going to control the factor using a PNG image, a simple PNG image as a label. So let me select this one, Ctrl+T, just to add these three image textures here, and I'll plug the alpha into the factor like this. And then I'll hit on open, and then I'll locate where I saved my file. So it's here. It's just a simple text on a PNG image. I'll just hit on open image, and then the image will be imported into my scene like this, right? So it's just a simple PNG black and transparent image. So now it's repeating everywhere. So let's just change the settings from repeat to clip so that we have just one single image. So what it's doing is everywhere there is black, this white, this bottom BSDF shader shows, and then everywhere there is nothing, this one shows, right? So we can easily change the color to anything we want, but let's leave it at white as at now. Maybe let's make it a bit reflective. Yeah, as at now. So now let's take a look at how we can fix this weird stuff here. To do that, we are going to go into our UV editing tab. So let's come to the top here. Let's locate our UV editing, and because it's a very let's select this base one first, and then let's tab into edit mode to go into our UV editing tab. Because it's a very basic shape, Blender will try and unwrap it for us since it's a cylinder. So Blender will do a very good job at unwrapping it for us, right? So if we take a look at it, our main focus is on this section here. So let's hit on L to select this entire loop, then G to bring. So let me select one part, let me hit on L to select the entire thing, then G to bring it to this side. So this is what we are interested in. The rest of these islands are not necessary. So this that we select is this entire thing wrapping around our body. So this one is for the inner part, and then this is for the top and then the bottom. So let's select everything apart from this one, and then let's hit on S to scale it down until nothing is showing. So let's put it somewhere here, right? And then now let's focus on this one. Okay, so to see what we are doing, let's just check here to go into our look dev mode. And then as you can see, currently there's nothing on it. It's because our UV is way up here. So now let's try and position the UV inside the label we added. So let's hit on A, let's hit on L to select this entire thing, then G to bring it inside. You see, once I bring it inside, our UV starts appearing on the shape. Now let's hit on S to scale it up, G to position it, S to scale it up, right? Then maybe scale it like this until it's at the right proportion. Then I can just position it just the way I want, like this, right? So once I'm okay with it, we can go back to our layout, and then our UV will show properly. So if I want this to show into the camera very well, I'll just have to R, Z, and then rotate it until it's showing very nice into the camera, right? So with this simple setup, we've been able to just create the label, and then we can easily manipulate the color of the label to anything we want, to our full heart content, right? So now we have to basically do the same thing for the top part, but it's going to take a lot of time. So now let's just duplicate this bottom part and then position it the same way as the top part is positioned. So let's do Shift D to create a duplicate. Then let's bring it somewhere here. And then let's see how we can just easily copy the attributes, the rotation, and the location of this shape. Right, to do that, there's a very simple plugin that can help us achieve that. Let's go to our edit, preference, and then let's search for copy attribute menu. So make sure you have this plugin checked. It's going to help us to easily achieve that, right? So once the plugin is checked, select this shape here, then hold Shift to select the other shape you want to copy its attribute. Let's do Control C, and then now we can copy the location, rotation, the scale, and other cool extra attribute of that active object. So first, let's copy the location, and you can see it jumps into place as this one. And then let's do Control C, and then let's copy the rotation, and then it jumps right into the actual rotation. Next, let's try and delete the old shape from there. So to delete the old shape is the body 001, right? So let's select it and then hit on X, then delete it from our scene, so that we have this one remaining. Next, let's just rotate it on the X axis till part of our label is showing inside our scene like that. So that's it. Basically, we can, at this point, we can just play around and be creative as much as you want. You can add a new light here. So let's add in an area light. Then let's bring it to the side as to scale the area light up. Maybe increase the power to, let's say, something like 100. Let's play around with it. Now finally, let's add material to our cream. So let's hit on New to create a new material for the cream. Maybe change the color a bit, and then decrease the roughness, make it a very rough surface, and then let's add in subsurface scattering. Make sure we have the weight set to 1, just to create that extra layer of detail, so that it doesn't look like a plastic, but then it looks like a cream, an actual cream, as you can see, nice and beautiful. Right, so next, you are free to play around with it. You can play along, you can download a couple extra HDRIs and then test them and see what works best for you, what kind of scene you are going with, and what not. I think this looks cool. You can hide this one so that I can see my viewport very nicely. Just play along with it. I'll go with the old one. I think it looks fine. So finally, once you're done, let's see how we can render it out. So let's go to our render properties, go to our color management, and maybe change the look to, let's say, high contrast, to add in a little bit of contrast. And then next, let's make sure we have our max sample set to a very reasonable number, depending on the PC you are using. So I can set mine to 100, and I think it will still look fine, but you can obviously increase it up. The higher it goes, the higher it takes for you to render. So once you're done with everything, just go to the top here and then hit on your render image and wait for your final results. If you like this tutorial, I just released a cosmetic mockup pack that you can check out. It comes with 20 models, comes with 5 gobos, some materials, and 5 pre-made scenes that you can check out to support this channel and support my work. Thank you very much for watching and staying with me till the end. It's my friend. Peace out. So this is my final render, as you can see. Bye. Hope you love the tutorial.